Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In this video, we're going to preview game week 4 of the 2025-26 FPL season and SuperCoach EPL season. So we're going to throw all the EPL stuff in one video just to get through it because there's a lot of content at the moment. So I guess what we like to do with our round previews, not that we do these very often, but we've just had the international break. So we'll use it as an opportunity just to go through the most popular trade-ins and trade-outs of the week, as well as we'll have a look at not just captaincy options, but just ownership options, given that we are early doors this season, just having a look at some of the trends. And then I'll obviously talk a bit about my moves. So in terms of the most popular trades, the trade outs this week on the chopping block, we've got Cole Palmer at number 1. So obviously at his price and the fact that he's out injured, I think it does make sense, particularly if you can, get a couple of cash grabs in there over the next few weeks. And given Palmer had a bit of a slow start too, he might dip in price, and you might be able to actually turn a profit in a few trades. At number 2, Martin Odegaard. So I don't think he's an emergency trade out. Obviously, he's lost a bit of cash already. I'm sure his break even's not fantastic, 19. But he is up against Forest this week, who have just appointed Big Ange as their manager. And if there's one thing we know about Big Ange is that he loves to play aggressive football. So could be some opportunities for some attacking output from Odegaard. So not an urgent sell, but I guess if you're worried about the cash, I can get around it. Excuse me. Reinders, so very popular trading after week 1 and his monster score. I already had him in the team. So I guess it's a situation where if I wanted to, I could jump off. But again, I'll give him another shot. He is playing Man United this week, so every chance he does get another attacking return and make a bit more cash for us. So not an urgent trade out there. Jeremy Frimpong doesn't sound like he's going to be back in time for this one. So I guess, if you're sick of holding, you could jump off. But he's definitely one I'm looking to target once he's back, because he's only played the one game. So you get a free look, and then we can bring him in if it looks like he's not going to be much cheaper than 6.5. Dan Ballards, it sounds like he's got an injury, unfortunately. I would suggest holding though, just because given the break even of -19, he'll be back in 2 to 3 weeks, jumps on the pitch, makes you some money then. So, I think you would have brought him in after game week 1 because he was going to pretty much guaranteed to make some money. So I think if you did that, you just hold him. Miles Lewis-Skelly, don't think he can get a look in at Arsenal at the moment, so I think you can move on from him. Ollie Watkins is another one I'd probably hold. Obviously, it hasn't started the season as well as you'd like, but we know the goal scoring potential there. I guess maybe there's 1 or 2 players that I could see myself trading Watkins to because they make some quick cash. Mo Salah, so this seems sacrilegious that he's on the list, but I guess he's very expensive and he hasn't, he's had a couple of quiet weeks, but does play Burnley this week, so I'm holding. And spoiler alert, he's getting the C this week for me. And then a couple of Burnley assets, Cullen and Walker, obviously up against Liverpool this week. Cullen's made his money, 1.3 million. Might squeeze a bit more out this week, but coming off a -1, it's not going to be as much as you'd like. And Kyle Walker, I think the only problem is there's not a lot of value in it. You do need to find a really cheap defender to trade to. On the trade-ins this week, number 1 is Jack Grealish, and I think this is supported by, you can see in the top 10% of owners, 10% of players, sorry, 80% own him. He's the most highly owned player in the top 10%. Um, might have a look at overall in a minute too, but I guess that just goes to show that, if you got on last week, he's already made 2.6 mil. He's got a negative 21 break even. So you're absolutely flying. Lucas Paqueta, so has a nice break even this week, albeit a toughish matchup against Tottenham. But he just walks out on the pitch and will make you some more money. Well done if you already had him. You've got 2.3 mil in the bank. João Pedro. So this is the probably the one person I would suggest if you're going from Watkins, is justifiable given his break even and the fact that he's in good form. Senesi, it's an interesting one. He does have a nice break even, but at 7 million, he's probably one you're going to want to trade in, trade out in a couple of weeks. Um, so I guess if it is a bit of a cash grab, or so be it. But yeah, I think there's only so many of them you can get away with early doors. Enzo Fernandez, so a lot of people bringing him in with Palmer out. He's the penalty taker. But it's not all about penalties in this game. They obviously are a nice bonus if you're trying to decide between two players. But at 10 mil, I think there's a better way of redistributing those funds. So I wouldn't look at Enzo. Rodri's another interesting one, super cheap at 3.75 million. But I guess being a defensive midfielder, it does limit his upside in terms of the attacking stats. Um, So I think he's played 2 games now, hasn't he? Yeah, so he is on the bubble this week. He will start to creep up in cash, as you can see, projected to make 210k. Obviously, if you can get an attacking stat, that will escalate a bit quicker, but it's not something you would bank on. Dewsbury Hall, so alongside Grealish, was nice and cheap, very attacking, got the result on the previous game week, and is making some cash. So I think, you know, we talked about Enzo's 10 mil. In theory, you could bring in Dewsbury and Grealish for almost the same amount of money. So that absolutely makes sense. Trafair, so another one that I fortunately started with. He's made some good money and has a nice break even. Um, so yeah, I prefer that over Senesi, even though I think Senesi's is slightly higher break even this week. Chalabar, so nice break even, but is very expensive. Um, and Calafiore is another one, like nice break even again, but it's only for this 1 week. And, assuming that he doesn't get another goal and a clean sheet and all that against Forest, um, you're probably going to be looking to trade next week. In saying that, Arsenal's defence is pretty good. So I think out of these two, I would prefer Calafiore, just because there is that longer term potential for him to be a keeper in the team. Although the one bit of news to be mindful of is that Saliba sounds like he is injured, which will obviously affect their defence quite a bit. So those are the trade outs and trade ins. In terms of the ownership, as I said, we'll have a quick look. So it looks like there's the two must haves, Jack Grealish, Erling Haaland. Um, After that, there's a few very popular options. And again, I haven't got all of these guys, but Mickey Van de Ven, so he's made some money, and he was definitely in my thoughts preseason, so that absolutely makes sense. Yeah, Pedro, as I said, he is very tempting, but I'm pretty happy with my front three, and the plan is to sort of basically just hold them and rotate through everyone else, for better or worse. David Raya, so pretty popular as a goalkeeping option. Um, so I understand that move. Kukurea, so a very attacking player, obviously quite expensive and now really expensive, but well done if you got on him. So then the next few I do have Calafiore, Dewsbury Hall, Juve is a nice little money maker. Cole Palmer will soon be out of my team, but a lot of people still have him. Caicedo is an interesting one, sort of mid-price, but more defensive, like more like a Rodri than an Enzo. So yeah, interesting that so many people have started with him. And saying that he is averaging 11 points, so he's doing something good. James Trafford. So unfortunately, he is one we might be stuck with a bit, given the Donnarumma has come to Man City. So you feel for Trafford. He come in thinking he was going to be number one, and then they just go and grab one of the world's best goalkeepers. Bruno Fernandes is a pretty popular one. So you compare him to Enzo. I probably prefer Fernandez at the price, just for that attacking upside that he offers. Rodri is pretty popular, so I guess I can see why people are getting on. Ekitike is an interesting one now that Isak has come across to Liverpool. Um, yeah, so I think he might be a bit of a cash grab, but I guess with so many attacking options, it's either going to be that one of them's going to starve or they're all going to feast because defenders won't know which way to turn. We've owned, and here's what it is. Paqueta, like I said, nice break even, so he's definitely on the radar this week. Um, the Euros a cheap defender. Didn't think he'd be that highly owned in the top 10%. So yeah, a lot of people got on Ballard, so I would hold. So Salah and Gyökeres, pretty decent ownership, 20%. So not quite pods, but definitely not must-haves. Um, as I said, Saliba might be one you need to trade out. Surprised he wasn't on the list given the potential injury there. But yeah, in terms of captains this week, it's very big on Haaland. Um, After that, then you sort of taking your pick at a point of difference, whether it's Salah, Pedro, Fernandez. As I said, Cole Palmer's not relevant. Um, Although this is in the top 10%, so I don't know what's going on there with people, if I'm being honest. Um, Grealish as a pod, that's interesting. Carl Fiore, Ekatike, yeah, they would have worked out last week. Nice. So, yeah, in terms of my team this week, we do have Palmer, so he's going to go. And we're not going to overthink it. We're just going to bring in Paqueta, take the cash. As I said, give it a few weeks. They could be, it could be a profit to sell Paqueta back to Cole Palmer. So we're going to do that. That's it. That's our trade. I was thinking about trading out Trafford for an absolute, enough keeper to be able to activate the loophole. But I suppose Trafford is now that enough keeper, that enough goalkeeper. So it doesn't make sense to trade him. Like we do sort of lock in about 1.3 mil of our salary cap. But if we absolutely need it, we do have a few boosts up our sleeve that we can use to access that. So he'll sit on the bench. Petrovic will go on goal. And so then I guess the question is, who do we bench this week? So obviously Arsenal with a nice fixture against Forest. We're happy to play Timber and Calafiori and Gyökeres. Um, Obviously Salah and Haaland are playing, so we're definitely three up the front. We know that. Um, the Man City, the Man United or Manchester Derby is what I was trying to get at. Reinders is a decent shout. Everton at home, so we'll play Grealish and Drewsbury Hall, see how they go. Um, Paqueta and Sarr actually play each other, so um, that'll be an interesting one. You got Bournemouth and Brighton, so that could be interesting. I already talked about West Ham and Leeds up against Fulham, so Roden's just a moneymaker. We're probably not going to play him. But what I'm thinking is we'll play Paqueta since we brought him in. Um, yeah, so I like Paqueta, Reinders, Grealish. The decisions between Drewsbury Hall and Sarr as to who gets the other gig. Um, and I'm just leaning towards Drewsbury Hall, so I'm going to leave that. And then the last decision is Truffaut or Diouf. Um, so they're both at home, but they're both playing pretty nice opposition in terms of attacking teams. So it's a toss of the coin, but I think Diouf is slightly more attacking, so we're going to back him in. As I said, captaincy, I'm going Haaland against Burnley. Um, you could, in theory, VC and watch the Liverpool game, but I'm not going to be up at midnight on Sunday night. So I'm happy to just go to the straight C this week and not worry too much about it. So that's the Super Coach team going into this week. As I said, we will quickly review um, Fantasy Premier League as well. So I already did my trades in the round review video. Um, so I traded in Haaland for Watkins, and basically to make that happen, I downgraded Palmer to Kamada at Crystal Palace. So um, yeah, so the team this week pretty much a similar sort of vibe. Kelleher and goal. So tough fixtures for both my keepers, but I think Kelleher has a slight better chance than Dubravka, particularly since I've captained Mo Salah. Van de Ven, Diouf, De Kuiper at the back. So Ryan Bissaka is probably on chopping block next week, but we don't have any free transfers. Um, Reynaldo is just a bottom dollar cheapie. And with Strand Larson injured, it basically made the front seven a pretty easy decision. But I guess just quickly for those that are interested, the top trade outs, trade ins. So trade outs, Cole Palmer. He's got the red designation, so he won't be playing. Cunha under a bit of an injury cloud at Man U. So I guess that kind of makes sense. Wood's an interesting one. I'd consider holding now that Big Ange is back. He's very attacking, and Chris Wood up front. I guess maybe the possession based style might not suit him. I'm not 100% on that. Watkins been traded out again. I'd keep the faith, but then again, I did trade him to Haaland this week, so I can't say too much. And Saliba, as I said, under an injury cloud, so might be one to let go. On the flip side, Grealish is a great option if you want to bring him in. Semenyo, yeah, he started off well enough, so makes sense. Enzo, again, as I said, I don't think is worth it. Although he's a lot cheaper in this format. I think he's only about 6 mil or something. Yeah, 6.6. So if you consider that downgrade from Palmer, then fair enough. Isak is one I'd have a look at before committing, but a lot of people are keen. And João Pedro, yeah, I don't hate that as a pick. What is he priced at? 7.7. So I'd have to try and find a mill somewhere if I was to bring him in for Strand Larson. So it'd have to be probably Verts would be downgraded. So yeah, it's a possibility, but not at the moment. And yeah, so that's the teams going into week 4. As always, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy the Super Coach or Fantasy Premier League content. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.